There's no turning back now.
Hello, my friends.
Hello.
Hello.
So yesterday we had the summer solstice, the longest day of the year, and we were all of us up from dawn till dusk. I made it about 18 hours.
Lovely sunrise. It was a beautiful
I
sunrise.
think I've flaked before you.
So really what I want to find out is talk about what you guys are calling the Wayward Territory, which is what the project has kind of evolved into now. We're talking about the concept itself. You guys came up with it together. It's an idea you hit upon together when you were researching.
I think there was some post or something that had come up, and we was
Complete accident, wasn't it? You stumbled upon it, and it was just.
It was like, as we were exploring it, and I think I was the first person to say, "All right, I'll call you King."
Yeah.
And then it's sort of that's where it.
That was it. You said, "But what happens if I call you King?"
Yeah.
And I see you and I thought, well, I don't know how that works. So I googled it, and then we saw in international law it states that anybody has the right to bestow their sovereignty onto anybody they wish. It's their right to recognise somebody else as.
Okay. And what's the international law we're talking about?
They're a collection of conventions, agendas, constitutions, and other sort of things that have been put in together, which have been agreed upon by the members of the UN.
And there's a specific one.
There's a specific one, there's a couple, but the more specific one is the Montevideo Convention, which allows people to, especially of indigenous, but not limited to indigenous peoples, it allows them to govern themselves, as is their right, and to be able to bestow leadership or sovereignty onto somebody else to govern them, rule them, reign over them, take responsibility for them.
And I think more importantly it was for the tribes, the indigenous tribes, because for them to be able to be established as their own authority, if you like, within the tribes. The Micronation thing is sort of piggybacking on this Montevideo Convention.
This has been created to allow for indigenous peoples to have some
Groups,
kind of...
collective groups of people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the way it works is the more people you have, the more recognised you are.
Yeah.
And it's begun back, and it's not, like I say, it's not just because of the Montevideo Convention. This has been going on for many, many years. The first ever Micronation, who started it all, was in fact the United States of America. They had the first ever Declaration of Independence, they had the first Constitution, they created a
And
country.
that was even long before the UN, long before the Montevideo thing came along to recognise this, but that was one of the first...
One of the first examples that we can really find that is...
Yeah, and this goes.
They had to fight a war of independence for it.
Oh yeah, there was a whole sort of struggle
to break away from the British Empire and whoever else claimed.
But look at them now; they're one of the biggest superpowers in the world.
Right.
They are a micronation that has evolved into a superpower, and this has happened previously throughout history as we've grown as a species. Tribes have evolved into nations. Yeah. Clans have grown into countries.
So how does that practically work here for this little, what is this, an acre you say? Of
it's
how
a
can
very
you practically apply that here?
The same as you would any other country.
Yeah, well, I mean, how does it?
Some of these micronations don't even have land.
They have rocks in boxes.
Okay.
And these are recognised because the way it works is there is a list of things, a checklist under the UN of what criteria is to be a micronation. And obviously one of them is a territory. Now people are smart and clever and they think to themselves and get creative and they start to name things territory that can't be disputed. People have dug ponds in their gardens, put little islands in the middle, that's their territory.
You need to be able to have a boundary and be able to protect that boundary is one of the criteria. So if you've got a rock in a box, of course you're perfectly able and capable of protecting that box and it's got a boundary.
Yeah.
You know?
So they're...
But from manipulating it for their own entertainment.
For entertainment, absolutely.
Okay.
But from us as a practical point of view, we have physical territory. We have a physical recognised boundary, and that boundary is around this entire land. That puts us in a physical territory and not just an online one or just in theory. You need a population, a community, somebody to recognise it from the beginning. I can't just sit here and recognise it, I need other people to recognise it. We have a community, or already had a community that recognises it, and since we've made the changes and crossed over, we've taken people from our old projects and we've brought them into this project, and they've now recognised it as the micronation, and therefore we're ticking off that little box that is a criteria to be a micronation. And as we go through the list, there's all this criteria to tick off, and we're just going through it. Can we do this now? We'll come back to that one, but we can do this one, tick. we've done that one. Tick.
It ultimately
tick.
comes down to how long and how many people
Yeah.
have been involved.
Yeah.
So, because of course it's all about the history of it as well, isn't it? So if we've got records,
Documents, history books, newspapers. Well, we've got our own newspaper, the Wayward Wanderer, which is a newsletter.
The more stance we have, because we've been recognised as a country, even if the authorities haven't recognised us, other people have been recognising us as a nation.
Yeah, because bear in mind, the authorities, or the UN, if you will, they don't recognise Palestine as its own independent country. They don't recognise Taiwan as its country.
I was looking this up.
Yeah.
So why is this? Why are you guys doing this? I mean, what is? It's
The
a
drive.
response to something. Yeah. What's the motivation for this? I mean,
The Woodland is a privately owned woodland. The woodland I purchased with my family years ago. My intentions for this woodland were very simple: low impact, self-sufficiency, and to be able to live my life freely within the confines of the system. I still worked, I still paid taxes, I was a businessman. I just wanted to cut out the middleman when it came to certain things like food, water, living.
the project's gone through many different iterations, bringing us up to the present day.
Yeah. From the caravan, National Park Authority say, can't have that, can't do this. From that day, they've told me what I can and cannot do on my land to a ridiculous level. Hang on a minute, this is my land, these are my friends, why shouldn't they be allowed to enjoy this woodland? It's got to the point where I am now at the end of my tether. I'm being hounded by them, selected by them, every single year, subjected to site visits, and there's nothing wrong.
The National Park Authority is an organisation who claim jurisdiction over this area.
They're a company. They're a company that are in charge of. Yeah, they're a government body.
Funded something or other, aren't they?
They're a government body that is here to look after the national park.
Yeah.
The national park being the New Forest National Park,
Which we're
way
right
out
on the edge.
You went there yesterday. How long did it take you to
It was
get down?
about a 5 or 6 mile cycle to get to what I would call the national park. They claim that this is pretty much on their boundary.
Which we've been fighting them over for 5 years.
Yeah.
Well, nearly 5 years now.
Yeah.
We've been fighting them over this jurisdiction. They cannot prove anything to claim their jurisdiction is legitimate. They can't.
They can draw a map, but you can draw a map where their boundary's not.
Exactly.
Here or
I can present
right?
maps where their boundaries aren't here.
Right.
I have maps where there is no National Park Authority
Their
boundary.
boundary moves about.
No, there is no boundary. National Park never existed.
Uniformed
2005.
organisation, 2005.
Yeah, National Park Authority came in, drew a line around it, and went, right now we're in charge of this.
Yeah.
And since then, anything inside that map has been subjected to their rule.
And they disapprove of.
They disapprove of us meeting here, gathering here.
Not everything. Some of it, what you do, is okay with them, right?
Only because we've fought it so vigorously. Only because we've been persistent with it. From the beginning, we've had problems with even just coming here as a pagan group to worship the land and be a part of a ceremonial situation.
Yeah.
Just to say, we have private woodlands, let's go and do our summer solstice there.
Yeah.
They didn't like that from the very beginning, but we were persistent with it. We stood up for our rights and we kept going into tribunals and courts. I myself had to stand in front of magistrates and try to justify to him why I should be allowed as a pagan to be able to be here in my own woodland, and they're not interested in that. They don't care about that.
To them, it's rules is rules.
Yeah, rules is rules.
So
it got to a point where I said, fuck them, we'll do what we want, and we did, and they didn't like that. So now we have been exploring ways to do what we want legally. The trust was one thing. So we did the trust, which privatised
the trust still
land.
Works.
Oh yeah,
the trust works.
They are literally tied up with the trust, and they know this, and we've proved this again and again.
That means they can't take the land from you or something.
Ever.
They can't evict you.
No,
because you've got the land in trust. Legally, it belongs to your children or something.
Yeah, it belongs to my children and the children of the trustees who are involved in the trust.
Yeah,
it can't be taken from my children because my children are innocent. Doesn't matter if I owed £1 million or if I whatever. They can't take it.
Right.
With that in mind, the trust is now evolved to where I've gone from chairman of that trust to chief of the Micronation. All the same.
It's just up in the game.
Yeah.
It's up in the
Up in the
level
game.
of
We've gone from
our
drafts
stance.
to chess.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
So
what we're
these
doing.
guys are getting more serious, and you're like trumping them basically. The Micronation is like
Yeah, we're trying to
your latest
trump them all
trump
the
card.
time.
Yeah, okay.
And it's worked. For 5 years, I've always been one move ahead of them every single time.
Hence, you're still here.
So I'm still here. And this time around, they're getting clever on the trust. They're finding ways around the trust. They've had months and months and months to find little loopholes here and there where they can say things like, well, we get this and we understand it and we recognise it However, and it's like, well, this isn't right. But without being in a court with a magistrate, they are going to be that authority, because in their heads or in their minds, they're doing their job. They are. Here's the
thing: they call themselves the National Park Authority,
and they have enforcement officers.
Right, and that kind of suggests they really want to be the National Park Force, where they come here and they force you to do things, which is illegal. There are laws. Well, there are legal statutes.
We have rights. That's the biggest thing that we need to recognise here. Yeah, we have rights. One, we have the right to privacy. That's the biggest one. We have the right to privacy. Them coming into people's car, it's not just me that's faced this. Many members of the community have also had dealings with them, shall we say. They will intrude on your private property. If there is an open gate, an open door, an open shed, an open barn, they can legally enter into that property.
Is that right?
That is right. This is what they've told me. This is what a magistrate is confirmed. They can do that because they're doing their job.
That's not considered trespass, though.
No.
But if they open the gate, it's trespass.
If the gate is locked and they break the lock, that's trespassing. Yeah. If they climb over the gate, that's trespassing.
And that would be the same for any individual.
Well, think bailiffs can walk into your home. If your door is unlocked, the bailiff can open the door of your home. Yep, I've had it happen to me. However, these people, they don't abide by the rights of people's privacy. They don't abide by that. They infringe that right, and people have forgotten their rights. They don't know their rights. So they basically allow it to happen. And all the while, our rights, they are being taken from us. Our freedoms, our liberties, everything that we have given to us from birth are being removed on the sly. Right to privacy, the right to practice one's belief and faith without the consequences of authorities. Why, as pagans, can we not come here and celebrate the summer solstice? Because we're loitering? We're gathering in a place in numbers? Is it intimidating to them? I don't know. But if you go to church, you can have 50 people in a church, 100 people in a church. No one bats an eyelid. But because...
Just to clarify, the National Park Authority obviously wasn't created just to hassle individuals who are doing their own thing. What's like their wider purpose?
Planning to get revenue. They want money,
but they kind of supervise developments in the national park.
What they do is they prevent people from doing changes to the national park, which could be deemed as uncharacteristic.
But some of it they're protecting,
like as in
a natural beauty spot, aren't they?
I don't think so.
I think that's why they're under the guise of.
No, I don't think they are.
That's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm getting at. Can we at least kind of try to see it from a different perspective?
The National Park Authority are there to protect the national park. Yet the national park is not being protected. You've been there yourself. You've seen the amount of rubbish and litter and junk that's just been dumped around. They're not clearing that. They're going bypassing the actual woodland side of things, and they're looking at different ways of the planning permission kind of things. Can't have somebody put a conservatory up in their garden because it could change the characteristics of the new forest. Things like
But they also stop uncontrolled housing development as well,
do they? Or do people pay money to buy their way into making these housing developments? How many places in the New Forest? Myself, I've been following, and I've been doing this for years, way before I even had the land. I've been doing Facebook Lives where I've phoned councils after learning something is happening that shouldn't be. Greenbelt land being cut down, public national park land being fenced off, privatised and logged, fracking being considered, fracking being passed, fracking being all this stuff. If the National Park Authority here to stop these developments that would harm the national park, you'd imagine they would start with the loggers, the corporations, the fracking, but no, they're hounding...
And all that stuff does happen here, doesn't it, to an extent?
Fracking hasn't happened yet, but it is. It's coming.
It's on the way, isn't it?
Oh yeah, eventually they will be here.
So
the idea behind it is basic, it's simple. There is no alternative out there for people like us. And when I say people like us, I mean the people that come here to this community, the black sheep of the family, people who want to make a change in the smallest ways.
Struggling to conform.
Yeah.
Struggling to conform, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
They are struggling to conform because the system out there isn't allowing for their individuality. Okay. It's trying to pigeonhole them, put them in boxes, and if you don't fit in, and if you don't fit into those boxes, you're deemed as a mental health patient. You're deemed as crazy. You get looked upon as the loon. It shouldn't be like that. We're individuals. We're in the 21st century now, are we not? We should have evolved past this witch hunt of they're crazy, putting them in an asylum to get them out of the way. And they're not crazy. You're trying to put them in a situation which is driving them crazy. We want an alternative. We've asked for the alternative. We tried the alternative. They keep pushing down the walls that we build for ourselves as that alternative. We're getting pissed off. Nothing's changing out there where you can vote, you can pay your taxes, you can conform and comply all you want. Nothing is changing, it's getting worse. Where is the alternative? They're not giving us one, we have to take one.
You have to create it for yourself.
We have to make it, and that's what we're doing. We are making an alternative, and we can't say how it's going to work, or we can't say how it's going to end, or if it's going to work at all. But if we don't try, we'll never know.
All right. So, practically speaking then, how does the micronation change things?
Here,
Yeah, just in this specific example.
when they arrive, or if they arrive, they will be stopped at the gate, which is protocol, because they will anyway, as they have done in the past. It's not a case of they'll go, there's a gate, the gate's always been there. So they'll stop at the gate and they'll ring the bell. They'll be presented with, oh, have you got any documentation? This will confuse them, because they've never been asked this question before.
No, you know who we are, we've met before.
Have you got any ID? Have you got anything to prove who you are? Have you got anything to say who you are?
Which they damn well should do. They're here on official business, aren't they?
Damn straight.
Yeah, they'll present their ID.
And then we'll go through our foreign policy with them. To enter, they'll need to apply, they'll need to sign paperwork, they'll need to...
not use anything on the land against him is one.
Yep, they can't take photographs, they can't...
No photography.
Yep, and all these little rules that we can put into place. But more and foremost is if they keep pushing, we can turn around to them and say, actually, we shouldn't even be talking to you. You are not a diplomat of the United Kingdom. You are not an envoy or a foreign correspondent. You are a national park authority.
We're talking to the monkey when we should be talking to the organ grinder.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Go and get a diplomat. Go and get somebody who represents the United Kingdom, not the national park. And then we'll see what happens. And that's as far as we've got.
It's an experiment,
yeah,
right?
It's an experiment. We'll see what happens.
So
but
for all the critics, for all the haters who are saying this isn't going to work, how do you know? You've never tried it out.
Yeah, this is it. You got to.
As far as we've got, as far as we have got with this is, we need to have something that backs up what we're saying. And all we're saying at this point is when the National Park Authority turn up, we are going to ask them to present documentation and to prove who they are, and to then state their business, sign paperwork, and if they do not, they will not be allowed in. The gate won't be open. It won't be open. If they don't sign it and they don't want to come in, we'll see what happens.
That
if they
seems
do
pretty
sign
reasonable, because they ask you to jump through hoops as a landowner.
Yes.
You're just asking them to jump through a couple of hoops
Yeah.
themselves.
If we can say to them, we have declared ourselves independent. We are now a micronation. We want to deal with diplomats.
Under the Montevideo Convention, which is a real international law. It's a law.
Yeah. Well, they call them. We recognise them as international laws.
Yeah,
but they're
law's
not
a pretty slippery word, isn't it?
Yeah, they themselves don't call them laws. If you type in international law, it will tell you international law is a collection of agreed upon conventions, constitutions.
There's really very few laws.
Quite shady, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. The government doesn't make laws. The government makes statutes or something.
And then we go to that. Then we go down that avenue of these are the UN laws that you stand under as a representative of the United Kingdom or as a national park under the government of the United Kingdom and the Queen of the United Kingdom. With this in mind, are they going to stand there and infringe our rights? Are they going to deny us the rights, which we don't know, but it'd be interesting to find out if they really do not give it. Because don't forget, these people are paid for by you. Taxes pay them. They are paid by the people. So are they going to recognise our rights and respect our rights as people, or are they going to say no, that doesn't matter, that doesn't apply, we don't care? Then we go from there. It will eventually, I'd imagine, go one or two ways. They'll go, fuck these people, this is too much hassle, this guy has given us too much shit for too long, we're out, which I doubt because they're doing their jobs. However, what's more likely is that they're going to say, right, you Mr. Landowner, we're going to take you to court for this now because you've been treading on too many fucking toes, and now we're going to punish you. They're not going to go for anybody else. This is a likely scenario. Yeah, it's happened before. Even with the trust. Even though it was in trust, I was arrested. I was taken to court.
By the police?
Yeah, because I didn't turn up to court. I was summoned to a magistrate's court. I replied with, thank you for the invitation, but I respectfully decline. They then...
It's your right to do that.
Yeah, and then they arrested me, or sent a police officer to arrest me, sent me in, and then they tried me for it. It wasn't the trust, it wasn't the trustees or the beneficiaries, it was me as the landowner. Whatever happens first, I will go with my foreign representatives, my envoys and diplomats and whatnot, however many I so choose, including my royal guard if I so want to. If I want to take 20 people with me to their council office, then I will take those 20 people with me because I'm going to a foreign country for diplomatic relations and I need to make sure that my safety is ensured. Once in there, I will explain everything, present the paperwork, the documents, all the conventions, the international law, all of this, what we stand under, why we're doing it, etc., etc., etc.
This is how things are done in court.
Yeah. And we shall see what the magistrates say. And we'll go from there. What's next? We don't know. Nobody knows.
Yeah.
Nobody can tell us what happens after this. The magistrate may say, no, that's not going to happen. Then we'll decide what we're going to do.
Yeah.
We're not going to fucking surrender.
What would be an ideal outcome if that happened? If the MPA weren't prepared to like leave you alone, which is effectively what we've always wanted here, and it did go to court, and the magistrates...
The ideal outcome is to be recognised as independent from the UK, so that they can't touch the land, they can't tell us what to do here, they can't get involved. Or
they revoke their jurisdiction.
Aha.
They move their boundary so it is no longer around my land. They take it across outside of my boundary, and they never bother me again. And therefore, I won't have to be recognised as a nation, because we'll continue as a micronation without the consequences, because we won't have that national park status that prevents us from being here. If we were on that side of the if we were on that side of the boundary, literally there, where my boundary is, if my land was the one next door, we wouldn't have any of this problem.
So this plot, known as plot 20, is right on the edge, and they just need to move their boundary from that side to that side, so that you're outside.
Yeah. And if they refuse, or they don't want to, and they won't recognise us as not in their jurisdiction, we will pursue to fight for it. We will continue to stand here in firm, basically firm persistence, stubborn, and
because this is, in a sense, this is a protest. On
yes,
one level,
it's always been a protest. Yeah. I've always been protesting and defending my land from the government, from the authorities, from those out there who believe I can't exercise my human rights here. They are doing their jobs which would prevent me from doing so, which I find absurd. We have been working on, however, cutting out this continuous argument with the secretary, bypassing the secretary, and just making our way straight towards the boss's office. So we are
dealing
going
direct with the top of the MPA.
No. They're the managers. Fuck the supervisors. We're going further up, right to the boss.
We're going to the Queen.
We're going to write a letter to the Queen, and we're going to
tell her what's going on.
Yeah. There has been one example in history in the United Kingdom where a micronation was founded. The micronation presented documents to the Queen and requested to be allowed to do so and be independent. The Queen, or the Queen's office, either humoured them or whatever, but they replied and said, that's fine. We can do that, we recognise you as that, but you must swear to never go against the Queen, claim lands of England, etc., etc., etc. We are going to send a letter to the Queen and see if we get a similar response. If we do, then we are going to use that against the National Park Authority and say, look, there's a letter from the Queen, and then we'll see where we go from there. This is an experiment.
There's so much in this experiment, really, that
we're in a laboratory, and we're just throwing things into
the pots,
and we're going to see what happens. What explodes, what smokes, what settles, what does nothing.
So there's very little for them to gain by
bear in
pressing
mind,
this.
Bear in mind, we've got permission for
rules.
it. Yeah. We've got permission for the shed. We've got permission for the tyres and the chicken pen. We've got permission for all of what you see here.
Right.
So what can they do?
I suppose we should just say that for the sake of explaining it to people. Like, a lot of the things, if not most of the things here, have actually been okay.
Yeah.
Under the
Town and Country Act and Planning Permission sort of criteria. Yeah. Nothing here requires planning permission, and they've recognised that in paperwork. I've got that paperwork.
Yeah. Because the tools and the shed, etc., are necessary for woodland management, and that's absolutely okay here. And that's also 28-day camping. Yeah. We should say that is permitted.
Exactly. Here. 28 days camping. And then this is what we're fighting against. The 28-day rule. That is what we want to change.
Yeah. We should be able to camp here at any time.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the 28-day camping, that's 28 days that you can sell to the public, right? You can sell pictures to the public.
It's any.
Oh, okay.
Unless I apply for a change of use, where I change it to a campsite, and apply for a change it to a campsite where they'll give me, say, a whole season.
Yeah.
Where it's but then I'll have to pay the taxes. It becomes a business.
Yeah.
I don't want to go down that road.
No,
what I'm offering, I'm offering free pitches to people to come out here once a month to relax, to unwind, to get back into nature, to be able to just enjoy at least one weekend in their months. That's what I'm trying to do. I don't want to charge people for that. We offer free produce. We don't we don't charge for our eggs. We don't charge for our potatoes. We don't charge for anything that we grow or get for free. We take donations. Absolutely. If people want to leave a couple of quid for the eggs or a sack of spuds, fair enough. You want eggs? We've got eggs. You want potatoes? We've got potatoes. You want a place to heal? We've got a place to heal. And more. And more. Self-defense classes. We've got a lady of 30 years that is very trained in karate and self-defense. She's willing to share that with us so that we can, those that are interested, can learn basic self-defense. And it all works with that mind, the confidence to get people to face what is going on out there. Because we all know what's going on out there, and it is breaking people. It is breaking a lot of people. And they don't know what to do. We didn't know what to do. And now we're going our own ways, and we are doing what works for us, and we're trying to share that with the people out there that it may work for them. Not everybody. We're all different. We need to recognise that as individuals. We're all different. But we all resonate on different vibrations, and some people, they resonate with this, and we encourage those people to come forth and get involved. And people that don't resonate with this but have a different approach, we encourage people to go their own way. And follow that urge. Don't lock it away because of a lack of confidence or because you feel that you're not good enough to do something, you're not strong enough, you're not powerful enough. We have that power. We have it inside us.
So for people who are watching, where can they go to find out more? What's your YouTube now?
My YouTube is Wayward Territory.
Wayward Territory.
So we have a name change over at the Off-Grid Norseman. We've changed it from Off-Grid Norseman to Wayward Territory. And it's same content, same basic stuff, but basically it's obviously moving on to the projects, which is the Wayward Territory. I'm still going to be doing the rants, the rambles, the updates on the off, because we're an off-grid, self-sufficient nation, so we're going to strive to do that still, and we're going to be documenting all of that on my YouTube with the self-sufficiency, rants, adventures, camping, camps, meeting people, all of that. It's going to stay the same, just the name change and the regular updates on the territory.
Okay, and you can follow Tara as well?
Yep, on Tactical Camper. I shall be uploading things that are sort of more from my perspective, I suppose, on how things are going here, and and eventually, hopefully, I'll be going off and doing like wild camping here and there myself. So I'll still be having that little angle. At the moment, things are a little bit, intense here. So I don't envisage the wild camping coming up for a little while, just because. It's all things are moving so fast.
Really
we are, aren't we? We're going camping soon, aren't we?
Yeah, we're going to go and head up. Yeah.
We're going up to the Common to scout out potential grounds up there for rabbit and.
Yeah.
Is that where we were watching the sunrise?
Yeah,
we want to go and see what sort of hunting potential is up there, really.
So thank you for watching, everybody. There's plenty more stuff to check out. And
of course we got the Facebook media. The Wayward Media Facebook has links to YouTube's, links to progress, updates, photos, other people's posts.
It'll probably be linking to all our channels anyway.
Yeah, we all linked on there, everything. Wayward Media is where we're putting a collective of everything that we're doing, including the link for this video. Will now go on that page because anything Wayward related is on Wayward Media, and that's on Facebook. Sorry to ruin your goodbye.
That's it. And there'll be links below that you can find all the stuff. Thank you for watching.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
But I come as a brother. We are not so different from one another. The man that you become and the child that you are. Your anger is the strength, but it only goes so far. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, a life for a life. I give mine to you. He said an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, a life for a life. I give mine to you.
Every time I hear it, I feel more patriotic.
More powerful.